What are these ancient tablets? What caught your interest at the beginning? Why'd you start studying them?
Well, I had an experience when I was younger as a kid, which is, I'll cut the story short, but I had an experience in my backyard. I lived near a private airport, and I used to watch the airplanes go over my house. And this one day, this object went across the horizon that cleared the horizon in seconds, not minutes. And I knew that it wasn't a plane. It didn't have a cockpit, wings. It didn't have tail fin, none of that stuff. And it was completely silent, and it was like a silverish glowing metal. Then it came back much lower, and then it stopped dead smack over about now 200 meters, I can estimate now as a grown man. And then it went out the way it came in. And I went from that point. That's why I got into aerospace, research. I started getting all the Encyclopedia Britannicas, because this is back in 1977, on aerospace. Started studying from then, trying to find what I saw. Long story short, that led me into a whole nother realm, which then got me into ancient civilizations, which then I started seeing that these ancient civilizations were utilizing high technology. And I've been studying high tech. Well, how in the world did they have high tech back then? And my mother told me that in ancient times, there were people that were way more advanced than us on this planet that had everything you can possibly think of. She said they had the ability to fly from planet to planet. They lived on top of mountains. And everything she told me in the 70s, I started finding in these ancient texts. So the texts are the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation, the Atrahasis epic, the Code of Hammurabi, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the full and true story of Noah's Ark. Noah is actually Zazudra from the Sumerian tales. Later, his name was converted into Noah. And then you have there's so many tablets. I mean, there's just so many incredible tablets that are out there. And also some of these are like from the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, which is a vast amount of wisdom and knowledge right there. The Mahabharata itself is a 10-book set that's all been translated already. And there's just so many other tablets that exist that you can get your hands on, and they're all translated. They've been translated since the 1800s. People think this Zecharia Sitchin was the only person that can translate tablets, and now he's dead, and he made it all up. No, he used existing translations, and he even gives you his sources in the back of all his books. He didn't translate anything. You can go to the UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library, say that fast 4 times, and you can drop virtual tablets into the translator and read them for yourself.
No kidding.
Yes. So everyone can read these tablets. You don't have to be a special expert like Billy Carson. Now everyone can read what's on these tablets and make up their own educated decision on what they believe happened in the ancient past. And what did happen, now with hundreds of authors writing about them, including myself, at some point in the ancient past, a race of people seemed to have landed on this planet and began to develop this planet as a breakaway civilization, and at some point engaged mankind. See, they didn't create us. We were already here. They talk about the fact in the epic of, in the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis epic, they talk about, in 2 separate writings, by the way, that there was a being here and they wanted to get us to do the work for them. So they did something where they called adding their essence to us, which is some type of a genetic modification of sorts. Maybe our junk DNA is what they unplugged. But whatever it was, we ended up going to work for these people, and they found the first gold mine in exactly where it says on the tablets at Adam's Calendar in South Africa, and it's been dated now to 200,000 years old. Right when the tablet said the first gold mine happened, and people started working under the tutelage of these people. So it's pretty interesting stuff. And so these tablets, they pretty much encompass a lot of religious books, Quran, the Bible, a lot of Buddhist beliefs, pretty much almost every religion that exists. A lot of the roots come from these ancient tablets. Even the whole creation of our solar system is in the Enuma Elish and the 7 Tablets of Creation, which matches perfectly to astrophysics books at universities. Think about that. We're talking about text that goes back tens of thousands of years. How can they be accurate down to the science? Talking about orbits, gravitational pulls, planets being captured by gravitational fields in the beginning stages of the creation of the solar system, because of the gravity being captured and thrown towards our sun and colliding with other planets, creating debris. I mean, the whole thing is right there, and you can almost watch a National Geographic Discovery series on it, and they'll tell you the same exact thing. It's all based on real science. They talk about orbits changing and shifting, how Neptune and Saturn shifted orbits, which is they teach you that in astrophysics in college. How did they know this? So all this knowledge is in these ancient tablets. And so I go to them because they're as close to the truth as we're possibly gonna get. Like, if you wanna get as close to the truth, you're not gonna get to the truth, because still somebody wrote them. But man, there's so much information in there that matches up with real science, which is what I wrote in my book. It's like, it's crazy how accurate it is, and just why I go to the tablets first, because everything else to me is newer, and that's as ancient as you can get. I mean, the Emerald tablets are 36,000 years old, and that's like one of the oldest accounts of the Great Flood in history. It opens up talking about the flood and how the temples were coming up out of the mud, and people were coming out of the caves, and that the hairy barbarians were there. In other words, they were at a high level of civilization prior to this flood, and so many generations had gone by, they had turned back into just basically, hunter-gatherers almost again. And Thoth talks about his father sending him there, and he gets in a ship and flies up into the sky until the earth disappears. And when he gets to the place appointed, he descends down on the land of Chem, that's Egypt before it was called Egypt, and he tells the people there that he's gonna help them rebuild civilization. Rebuild, which means there already was a high-level golden age probably before this great flood. So these texts, man, they're just incredible. They have so much information in them. It's well worth taking a look at.
Let's talk about ancient Egypt. I've been looking into talking to Dr. Greer, we talk a lot about zero-point energy.
Yeah.
I've been looking into zero-point energy, free energy. I've been researching it, looking into the Nikola Tesla stuff, and it sounds like Nikola Tesla got his information somehow from ancient Egypt. A lot of people say that the pyramids were some type of a power plant.
Yes, not all the pyramids, some of them. So some pyramids have different functions, right? So the Great Pyramid at Giza, for sure, a wireless power plant, amongst other things. It was a multifunctional stone computer and a wireless power plant. It was also a communications device. So if you look at old images or old pictures of the Great Pyramid area at Giza, you'll see that the Nile used to run right up alongside of those pyramids. Now it's meandered miles and miles away. One of the main reasons why they don't want you to know is there was an ancient war that happened. That second war I told you about, that's why there's glass in the sands at the Giza Plateau. When you dig your hand in the sand, you'll pull up balls of glass. That's 3,000 degrees to create glass out of sand. That's weapons fire. There's still evidence of weapons fire on the Bent Pyramid right out there at Giza as well, which I've documented many times. It's coming out in my new TV show. But nonetheless, the water would run underneath in these gigantic aquifers. The tubes for those aquifers are still there. Sometimes I've gone down in them. Even kids play around in them and everything. But when you have running water underneath magnetized crystal granite, which is what the base is made out of, you create something called physiostatic electricity. Then those ions rush up into the Grand Gallery area, and there were these resonating rods going up the Grand Gallery to the King's Chamber. Now the rods are gone, but the slots where the rods sat are still there. They can't take out the slots. The slots are embedded in the stone. Then also, when it got into the King's Chamber, he's surrounded by thousands of tons of magnetized crystal granite in this specialized box with a 2-to-1 ratio. Now, at some point, something happened where they had to install this extra box. It's a granite box that's inside the King's Chamber. People were saying, oh, this is a sarcophagus. I can't even lay in that thing. My knees have to be bent. It's not a sarcophagus. What it is, it's the same exact dimensions as the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant was a power plant device. We know this based on the descriptions in the Bible. And it's been replicated at 2 different universities by 2 different groups of people, and it generated so much power they had to shut it down, just based on the biblical information and instructions. When you take those measurements, it fits directly inside that box. And why did it fit in the box? Because the pyramid at some point had lost its ability to generate the maximum amount of power, and so that was needed to add an extra piece to fix the problem, and that's exactly what they did. Then the energy would shoot up through the apex. The obelisks are all made of crystal granite. It's those obelisks, they capture the ambient electricity from the atmosphere. And then if you have something called a JED, it looks like a Tesla coil. I'll send you some photos of this stuff so you can utilize it. It looks like a Tesla coil, and it's all over Egypt. Everywhere you look in hieroglyphs, it's everywhere. And they have cables coming out of them, electric cables. They were connected to their electroplating devices, and anything else they needed, light bulbs, anything that needed electricity was connected to the JED. The JED would capture the ambient electricity from the obelisk. The obelisks were like electric wire poles in your neighborhood, basically, but just doing it all wirelessly. And by that method, they were able to transmit the wireless energy all around the region. and the jets would capture that energy and they can power whatever they wanted.